So right now, the whole deal is crazy for you guys because I had texted Michael Rubin to tell him that, I'm going on with you today, and he's like, you're going to meet him before I've met him. Like, COVID is nuts. Like, how crazy has this, what feels like a couple weeks been? And are your legs back? I mean, are guys dragging?
I mean, I got enough. I was lucky enough to get enough rest to where I was fresher, and I think it took me a while to get the trade to go through for me to be allowed to practice with the team. So I didn't get to practice the first 3 or 4 days.
Right.
But now I think my legs are back. My conditioning is a little bit better back. Wouldn't say I'm the freshest.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's a quick turnaround. And instead talking to the organization of how they're going to do things with no fans in certain cities, but your family's not allowed to come. Like, your friend, they have to stay home.
Right.
So they're pretty much almost in a bubble all over again. Talking to them, it's like they have to stay home and either watch on TV. Especially if you're not in a city if you got traded to a city or in a city that you don't like too much, or where it's cold, there's nothing to do, or the city's really shut down.
Right.
It's going to be tough for families, guys, wives, kids, etc. So I think that's why a lot of guys, kids and wives are staying like that. They're home. They're found their neutral base and just kind of visiting whenever they can. But yeah, this quick turnaround and how they're operating or doing it is going to be strange for a little while and weird for a lot of guys playing, but it's better than being in one location and doing it. We still get to travel. We still get to go in different arenas. Even though it's empty arenas, we still get some type of normalcy of being in the NBA.
Oh yeah. It's gotta be a lot better than the bubble, I'm sure. I mean, psychologically and all that stuff. We'll get into that in a second, but let's rip this Band-Aid off so we can get off the Philly thing. The Kawhi shot was, as a sports fan, and I was pulling for the Sixers because, like, my team's at home generally that time of year, the Knicks. And, I'm playing in Philly, so it's hard not to root for their teams, and been out to some games, and it's an awesome environment. It really is. And I know you played there.
The fans are amazing.
I mean, but they hold you accountable. They hold you accountable. That was going to be my next question, but, like, starting with the Kawhi shot, was that shit luck or was that skill?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think you need both in the playoffs. When he first shot it, I was like, oh man, we're going to overtime. But he takes that shot often. He does. If he gets to his right hand, he gets that fade. It's a pretty good shot, a pretty good chance it's going to go in,
Right.
So he got to a spot. The fact that he shot it over Joel, 7-footer, pretty athletic, big body, fading to his right. It's the end of the game. And it took 3 bounces to go in. At least 4 bounces. We had a little bit of luck on our side, but so he takes that shot. He practices that shot, but it is a little awkward now. Have you ever seen
him bounce it like that?
No, I've never seen that happen before. But it is awkward now being on the other side of it now in this locker room with these, because I can't say I forgot about it, but it's very fresh in your mind when you come to this organization and you're in the locker room with these guys and they're like, man, we're glad you guys won because you sons of bitches beat us with that. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm sorry. I kind of feel bad. Other than when I was in Toronto, I was like, yeah, hell yeah, we won. Yeah, we supposed to win. And here it's like, damn, I feel like we're glad you at least won it, because if you guys would have lost, it would have felt really bad losing to you guys on that type of shot. So
then they were pulling for y'all to win the whole thing.
I think after that, I think you're always pulling for the team that beat you to win the whole thing.
In football, I feel like it might be different.
Yeah.
In football, because it's it feels so personal to get beat by somebody. You're just like, fuck these dudes. I hope they lose the next week. I hope their bus breaks down. You said something about the Philly media. Listen, some people say I'm one of the smartest people of all time. Won a Super Bowl there. Next year, we made the playoffs, but I got the fuck out of there before it got to be like it is right now. And so I never got the wrong side of the Philly media. And for a lot of my career, I played in St. Louis where, yes, we were bad, but it was one of those markets, I would assume, like playing in OKC or something, where the reporters are not going to be like just crushing you at your locker, right after the game or the next day. Are you ready for that? I mean, I think that's a rhetorical question probably. And then also, how would you compare that to the other places you play? Because I would assume San Antonio is pretty chill, but it's weird because you guys, the excellence is expected at the same time.
I would assume San Antonio is very similar to your St. Louis So we were pretty much the only professional team in San Antonio.
Yeah.
Everybody's all about the Spurs and the media, and they controlled everything there and made sure the media, certain people were allowed in there. Certain people worked that locker room, and they weren't putting out negative. And the fans were very supportive, regardless win or lose. And so they've been there before. They've won some too. But I think Philly, Northeast fans are different. Like New York, Philly fans, I think they're very similar. But am I prepared for it? I think there's nothing like the LA situation that that situation could prepare you for any situation.
Really?
So I believe being in LA is definitely prepared me for this. And said even playing here as an opposing team has helped me, because playing here in the playoffs, and as Toronto, even when I was even on the West Coast, the fans here, they'll let you hear it, man. They'll heckle you. I've been heckled here plenty of times, man. I got into it sometimes. I was looking at house the other day, and it's like, that other guy that's heckling you on the sideline. I was like 5 rows behind him. So yeah, and it was a couple of people that did that each game every night, just messing with you, trying to get in your head. So yeah, there's no situation like the LA situation with media or social media or fan base that can prepare you for anything. Like I said, once you go there, you can be, ready to be in any type of scenario, especially Philly. But Philly, I feel like it's a different, as a Northeast people, it's a different animal. And if you haven't played in New York, or somewhere like that, it's going to be a culture shock for you to adapt and adjust to these type of people.
Is LA's known around the league as that place where the lamp's the hottest?
For sure. The most, especially being a teammate of LeBron's, there's a microscope on it. The expectation is a lot higher, for you as a teammate. So you have both those animals. You have LeBron and LA. It's a big microscope, so the only other place that I can think of that could compare would be New York. New York fans, there's nothing like New York fans.
How do you bring, and people said it, people didn't say it as much as they said it about you probably, because when I came to Philly, I just won one Super Bowl, and like me and LeGarrette were coming from New England, and both of us came to Philly and we got a chance to win. So then from there, we were known as like, these guys know how to win. I think there's something to knowing how to win, but there's also something to just, you got to go win in your new spot too. And you're not just going to be able to walk through the door and like, because Danny Green walked in and Danny Green knows how to win, I'm going to teach Shake Milton how to win. And I'm going to teach is that overstated sometimes?
A little bit. I said, people, regardless of where you won and what you've done, you still have to keep reproving yourself. You still have to prove it.
Right.
The next year, whether it's in the same city or the next city, you still have to prove it. But yes, once you've done it more than once, there's something to that people and the organization appreciate. The average fan might not know or appreciate it, but it starts with the respect of your teammates.
That's it.
And before you get there. So in Toronto, those guys respected me. Kawhi, even though we only had one in San Antonio, we had Timmy, Tony Manu with us and Pop. So it was like, it's a little bit harder to win when you're not expected to. Now we're expected to do it in San Antonio, but in LA, it was like, all right, this is what we're expected to do.
Anything less is a disappointment, right?
And if you won, it was like, okay, well, you guys did what you're supposed to do. Right. In San Antonio, we were kind of the underdog. Miami was always expected to win.
Yeah.
In Toronto, we weren't expected to win. It's always Golden State or other teams. We weren't sure who was coming out the East. Toronto never came out the East. So yeah, when you're coming to another organization and trying to teach that, the first thing is which I think is important, and you have no control over a lot of this, but having the respect of your teammates. And I think a lot of guys do respect me here in the locker room before I got just as an opposing player, as an opponent, and when they played against me and just watching what I've done, respect it, even though a lot of them are probably better than me. Right. They're like, you know what? This guy knows what the hell he's doing.
He's got shit to him.
He understands the game. Even if he's not great on the floor, he knows the game and where I can learn from him. And that's where it starts, where guys need to buy into like, all right, let me see how this guy can help us, help me. So that just starts from, being in the locker room right away. And once you earn that respect, you earn that rapport with them of getting to know them before you start barking orders at them or telling them what to do. It's just feeling them out and feeling them as a person. Then it's like, all right, how do I approach this to this person? How do I tell Joel or Ben or Tobias, like, this is what we need to see, that we need to do. But yeah, you have to build that relationship over time. And I think, it starts with the first initial is that even though we won, we beat them in Toronto, they hated us for beating them. But I think they respected me and us as a team and individuals, as players. Like, these guys are good. They know what they're doing. And regardless of how old he is, regardless of what he's achieved individually, even though he's not an all-star, he's got the IQ and the mind of what it takes to win. And obviously Doc too. It starts with Doc as well.
Yeah. It's funny because I think a lot of people misread the room and think that, or just this is the way it goes on, like a you or an I walk into a locker room and all of a sudden we just start yelling at people. Or we just start telling people
what they envision.
Like that's what they think. Like, yeah, you just walk in and you're like, hey guys, hey, just so you know, this is what we did here. Like, it was funny. What you said exactly resonates with me because when I walked into the Philly locker room, I had never had, when I was in St. Louis, I was respected because I was a real good player. But I was on the back end of my career now, and I was more of a role guy. I was a role guy for sure in New England, but in Philly, like, there were all of a sudden you just see younger guys kind of just gravitate you. They would go sit with you at lunch, or they'd hang around your locker, or like even older guys that I really respected were like, "Tell me what it takes," and it would be in a quiet moment, or it would be like on the bus. But there's not any formality to it. It's not like the team just gathers around you and you give a speech.
And it is like,
and in the playoffs, I remember because they were having vets talk that Philly run, and they were having vets talk every week through the playoffs, and it was my turn before, I guess, the NFC Championship game. And they asked me, what it takes to win in the playoffs, and I just said kind of what we've talked about. I'm like, listen, I can tell you what I've seen and what I've experienced, but there is no guarantee that I go out there and don't fuck it up. And I think you just need to understand that, like, I don't watch the playoffs every year. Guys that have never been there make plays. Guys that have been there all the time make mistakes, and that's the reality of it is like, and the minute you think, well, I've never been there, I don't know how to do this, or I've been there and I know exactly how to do this, I'm putting this on cruise control, you're fucked up. And so, like when I watched y'all's run last year, like Caldwell Pope had a really nice finals, right? Like he had some really good games. Like I don't remember him being in the NBA finals every year. I mean, like, so it's just people step up. And I think it's more the respect and the leadership, and that in a situation where you need a little guidance, guys will go to you. And it's more subtle than you walk in and you give some speech.
Exactly, because you don't want to be the guy that people are tired of hearing from.
Exactly.
That think you know it all. Like you start coming in, this guy's always talking, this guy thinks he knows it all. Because we don't. At the end of the day, we've been there, but it doesn't mean we know it all.
Exactly.
We've had some good moments as a player. We had some good moments, as a teammate. We've had, some moments we've shined in, some moments we haven't. It just happens. So be it. But you do need everybody together, and you do need one or two pieces, and maybe somebody random that steps up and shines. But that's part of staying healthy, executing, have a little luck on your side. All those come into play, but you can help yourself with that luck by being prepared. You try to teach them those little details of certain things. But so you don't want to be the guy to come in and start barking orders right away. You want to get the respect of them, learn them, and then little subtle things here and there, and how to teach them throughout the year of how to become, what it takes to win.
And you can be a calming presence because, dudes are looking at you in the huddle and they're like, okay, this guy's not panicking, even though you might be internally. He's been somewhere, but he's putting on a brave face like this is going to be okay.